I thought my phone was glitching until my new roommate started bleeding. My mother called me at 3 in the morning to tell me there was someone dying in my apartment. I'd been living in this city, a 7-hour flight from everyone I knew, for almost a year. We talked every day, or we tried to. Lately, between a brutalist class schedule and a part-time job that was eating me alive, I'd started leaving voice notes in the family chat. Little audio postcards. Proof of life. It was easier than trying to sync up our time zones. Until that night, the phone buzzed on my nightstand, a furious, insistent vibration against the cheap particle board. I swiped to answer, my voice thick with sleep. Zola? Zola, are you all right? It was my mother, Parisa. Her voice was thin and stretched, tight as a wire. Yeah, Mom? What's wrong? Who is with you? She demanded, no preamble. Who lives in that apartment with you? Nobody, I mumbled, rubbing the grit from my eyes. The landlord wasn't finding a new tenant until next month. I'm alone. A heavy silence pressed through the speaker. Then, so quiet I almost missed it, she said. Then you need to listen to the message you sent. Listen very carefully. There is someone with you, Zola, and they sound like they are in terrible pain. I was awake then. Bone deep, ice water awake. I almost never listen back to my own voice notes. I can't stand the sound of my own voice, the way it sounds both alien and intimately familiar. But I went to the family chat, my thumb hovering over the little play icon on my last message. I had sent it hours ago, rambling about a test I'd aced while collapsing into bed. I pressed play. My voice came through, tired but upbeat. Hey everyone, just wanted to say goodnight. Long day, but a good one. But it wasn't just my voice. Underneath it, behind it, woven through the very fabric of the recording, was something else. A sound like wet static. A faint, strained breathing, like someone trying to suck air through a straw full of water. At first, I told myself it was interference, a bad signal. But then my recorded voice said the word good, and the sound behind it twisted, trying to form the same shape. It came out as a gargled, choked noise. A gasp, a wet, tearing sound. It was mimicking me. The hair on my arm stood straight up. My whole body went rigid, a primal freeze response locking my muscles in place. I couldn't sleep. I just sat there in the dark, staring at the shadows in the corners of my room, my phone clutched in my hand like a useless talisman. What was I supposed to do? Call the police? Tell them there's a ghost in my audio files? Eventually, exhaustion pulled me under. The next morning, sunlight felt like a flimsy shield. I almost convinced myself I dreamed it. Then, I sent another voice update. I was sitting on my bed, tapping my foot against the wooden drawer built into the base of the frame. I recorded a quick hello, then, bracing myself, I played it back. Nothing, just me. A wave of relief so intense it made me dizzy washed over me. It was a glitch, that's all. That night, the illusion shattered. I sent another message before bed. This time, I checked it immediately. The sound was back. But it was worse. It wasn't trying to mimic me anymore. It was a shriek. A high, thin wail of agony, distorted and compressed into digital noise, like a file being corrupted in real time. It sounded like something being flayed alive. I dropped my phone on the floor, scrambling away from it. My heart was hammering against my ribs. I picked up the phone, hand shaking, and started a new recording. This time, I said nothing. I just held my breath and watched the audio bar on the screen. It was moving. A frantic, jagged pulse, like a seismograph needle during an earthquake. When it stopped, my mouth was bone dry. I didn't want to play it. I knew it was going to be that scream. I forced my thumb down. It wasn't a scream. It was a choked, wet gurgling. A series of desperate, muffled pops, like a throat trying to work around a mouthful of broken glass. I left every light in the apartment on that night, but sleep still ambushed me. I woke up at dawn with a throbbing pain in my ankle. I sat up and saw the drawer under my bed was slit open by about a foot. Strange. I never used it. I shoved it closed with my good foot, a surge of irritation cutting through my fear. This was all just too weird. The next few days were a blur of work and forced normalcy. I stuck to text messages with my family. The silence in my apartment felt heavy, watchful. Then my landlord messaged. The new roommate was moving in next week. A guy named Ansel. She needed some final details about the room. My hands were covered in flour from a half-hearted attempt at baking, so I sent a quick voice reply without thinking. Stirring the dough, my mind drifted. Maybe having someone else here would be good. Maybe it would chase the strange shadows away. A minute later, my phone buzzed. It was the landlord. I read her message, and the blood drained from my face. Is someone there with you? I thought we agreed you were living alone for now. Are they okay? It sounds like they're being strangled. My hands started to shake again. Slowly, I navigated back to our chat. I tapped on the message I had just sent. And I listened. The wet, tearing sound. The choked, desperate gasping. The sound of my own voice, being copied by a thing that only knew how to scream. Ansel arrived a few days later. He was quiet, with a kind of careful stillness about him, like a deer testing the air for danger. He gave me a quick, shy nod and mumbled his name, his eyes doing a rapid scan of the living room before he retreated into his new bedroom. We barely spoke. The air in the apartment grew thick with a tension I couldn't name. He was clumsy, but in odd ways. He'd reach for a cup and misjudge the distance, his fingers brushing the counter an inch away. He'd clip his shoulder on the doorframe, even though the hallway was wide. The day after he moved in, I noticed a small bandage on his wrist. A few days after that, a raw-looking scrape along his ankle. What happened? I asked, trying to sound casual. He just shrugged, a hollow sort of gesture. Must have caught it on a corner. He changed the subject so fast it gave me whiplash. But the marks kept appearing. Little nicks, strange crescent-shaped gouges, bruises that bloomed and faded overnight. He never talked about them. I didn't ask again. 3 days after he moved in, he knocked on my door. He looked pale, his eyes wide and uncertain. Hey, he started, shifting his weight from foot to foot. This is gonna sound insane, but do you have a cat I don't know about? No, I said immediately. Landlord has a strict no pets policy. He let out a shaky laugh. Right, weird. He scratched the back of his neck. It's just, I keep waking up with these weird little bite marks on my hands. He held them out. They were dotted with tiny, paired punctures like they'd been made by a mouthful of needles. They don't even bleed, really. Just there in the morning. My stomach twisted. I knew he wasn't imagining it. The voice notes had stopped for me. I'd tried recording a few times, morbidly curious, but they were always clean. My voice and my voice alone. A part of me relaxed, but another, smarter part knew this wasn't over. It was just connected to something else now. A few days later, Ansel got sick. Dizzy spells, he said. A pounding headache that left him unable to stand for more than a few minutes. I found him slumped in the kitchen, and, taking pity on him, I made him some soup and brought it to his room. He sent a voice message to his own family later, his voice weak and raspy. I was in the living room when my phone buzzed with the notification from the shared chat app he'd added me to for bills. I don't know why, but I played it, and I heard it, his voice thin and frail. And behind it, that same gurgling, choking mimicry. I ran to his room. He was lying on his bed, one arm dangling over the side. He looked breakable. Is everything okay? He asked, trying to push himself up. I need you to hear this, I said, my voice trembling. I sat on the edge of his bed and played my old recordings. Then I played the one he had just sent. His face went slack with a confusion that quickly curdled into fear. What? What is that sound? I told him everything. About my mother's call, the recordings, the feeling of being watched. He just stared at me, his knuckles white where he gripped his blanket. An idea, cold and sharp, cut through my panic. I took out my phone and started a new recording, holding it up in his room. I said nothing. The audio bar jumped to life. Whatever this thing was, it could move, and now it was in here, with him. He saw it too, his eyes darting around the room, searching the shadows. I recorded near the closet, near the window. The sound on the playback grew louder, more distinct, the closer I got to his bed. We looked at each other. Get out of the room, I said, my voice low and urgent. Go to the kitchen. Now. He hesitated, but the look on my face must have convinced him. He scrambled out, leaving me alone. His bed was a mirror of mine. a single wide wooden drawer built into the base. My heart hammered against my ribs. I turned my phone's recorder back on and set it on his nightstand. I took a breath. I reached down and pulled the handle. Before my brain could even process what I was seeing, a spike of excruciating pain shot through the side of my neck. A blur of something pale and white erupted from the drawer. I staggered back, my hand flying to my neck, and I instinctively grabbed at the thing latched onto me. Its skin felt like old, dry parchment over a frame of sharp twigs. I ripped it off and flung it across the room. It landed with a series of frantic, scrabbling clicks. It was the size of a large cat, but it was skinless, its muscles a raw pinkish white. It moved with a twitching, unnatural speed, its long, thin neck ending in a shockingly humanoid head with a lipless mouth and huge, bulging black eyes. It didn't make a sound. It just darted for the sliver of light coming from the open bedroom door. "Ansel, run!" I screamed, grabbing him from the hallway as the creature shot past us. I threw open the front door, and we tumbled out into the night, not stopping, not looking back, just running, until the sounds of the city swallowed the silence of that apartment behind us. The doctor said the wound in my neck was deep but clean. Ansel was not so lucky. The weeks of small, steady blood loss had left him anemic and weak. They kept him for 2 days. My phone was shattered, destroyed in our frantic escape when the creature had lunged for it on the nightstand, drawn to the tiny red light of the recording. It's been a week. We're staying in a hotel. We're never going back there. But I can't get it out of my head. The clicking sound of its limbs on the floor, those huge vacant eyes, that skinned, impossible body. I have bite marks on my back, in places I can't reach. I don't know when they appeared. I don't know if they are new. Sometimes, when the room gets too quiet, I can almost hear the echo of my own voice trying to form words around a throat full of glass.